So some continued thoughts from the video I posted this morning. And this is really an intergenerational reflection on impact versus intent, and connecting it back to implications for myself on this cusp of a new year, of all of us on this cusp of a new year, and how we show up for collective liberation and how we don't. I've shared in some previous videos about the ancestor who's the shared direct ancestor between myself and Janis Joplin, Robert Uri Porter. I've called him among the worst of my worst ancestors based on information that I had then. And I've had more information, and I've integrated it, and I've decided I stand by my assessment. And this really does, it points directly to that idea of impact versus intent. And I've been reflecting on its implications for myself, for other white folks, for folks with various dimensions of access and privilege, implications for ways we might let ourselves off the hook too easily for our actions. So things I had already known about Robert Porter before the new information that I've now been working on integrating. Things I already knew that haven't changed is based on census records. I know he enslaved human beings, and based on pension records, I know that he served in the Confederacy as a supplier. Those have not changed. One thing that I knew was in kind of the mythos of him, but didn't hold any credence to, was that he had given all of the people who he enslaved the opportunity to be free. And I'm like, first of all, that sounds fucking weird and wiggly wording. Second of all, like, when? Like, for all I know, this was after Juneteenth. Until I see some dates or more information, I'm not giving it any, credibility. Because one thing I've noticed is there for sure is a historic pattern of white folks trying to portray themselves in a inappropriately good light, inappropriately relative to the facts, And I've since gotten more information both about that myth and about his role in the Confederacy. And this is where we get to the impact and intent. I see a woodpecker back there. Huh. So for what it's worth, I found that it was indeed very shortly after his father passed away, and he inherited all of what the law of Texas considered his father's, which grossly included human beings, that it was very shortly after that Robert did indeed extend to these human beings that anyone who wants to go, he'll give them some startup money. Like, not just that, like, you can go, but that I'll help set you up for success. And that's not nothing. That's going against some real social norms. And, I also think it's a pretty low bar to, like, not be okay with enslaving human beings. And also, it wasn't a delayed thing. Okay. But then let's look at his role in the Confederacy, because again, I got more information about that, and he was a supplier of food. And he particularly was effective at getting resources that were in Mexico and securing them through purchase. I don't know how fair these deals were, but he got the food, particularly a lot of beef, sourced to the forces of the Confederate Army. And in fact, Laura Joplin, in her biography of Janis, mentioned that he was given credit for helping the Confederacy exist longer than it would have otherwise, right? Like that his efforts in securing food enabled the Civil War to last longer than would have otherwise been possible. And think about how many moments of human suffering, how many people who were enslaved and denied even the ostensible extension of freedom that the United States offers now. Like how many moments of really profound suffering and inequity and dehumanization were made possible because of how Robert Porter showed up, what structures he supported with his labor and love and energy and efforts. Impact versus intent. And I think about now as we face this period in history, as we're watching the decline of empire and the collapse of capitalism and the increasing obviousness of the harms, the evils of the overculture. And a lot of people are triaging, what do we do? What's important now? How do we... Yeah. And on the other hand, and like those people are like really grappling with like, how do I divest from systems? What is the impact of how I show up on Earth? And how can I use that impact to create a future we all deserve of collective liberation? Versus showing up and being a nice person, but knowingly just surrendering to the systems. And I think to different degrees, people with different areas of systemic access and privilege, especially whiteness, excuse ourselves in advance for showing up in ways that support systems of oppression. And it's in different degrees, and there's nuance when it comes to survival, but I am going to say, like, for I statements of systems I know I support that I am not comfortable with, like 2025 is going to be the year that I move away from Amazon and Facebook. Like, the human rights abuses of both are so obvious. Facebook's basically the feds. Amazon, I mean, like, there's nothing ethically redeemable about those business practices. Look at this tree full of turkey tail I found. My goodness. I don't know, I just think being nice and focusing on our interpersonal day-to-day interactions with others is important. And I think it's also pastime. As like each person, no matter how far along we think we are, to really honestly grapple with what systems are we supporting and allowing to continue and sustain themselves with our assistance. And how can we move away from them to free up that time and energy and resource within spaces of liberation? And I think it's going to look different for every person, so I don't have set answers. But, like, don't be like Robert, you know? Like, we really have to be navigating, I believe, that resonance between day-to-day interpersonal interactions and the implication of those actions on the overarching context, because we can be empowered collectively. That, I believe, is only going to be best possible when we divest what energy we're giving to those systems and free it to be redirected. Some imperfect, rambling thoughts. Thanks.